Hey there guys, how are you today, and welcome to my preview of the 2018 Chinese Grand Prix, the third race on the 2018 F1 calendar. So I think you all agree we had a fascinating Bahrain Grand Prix, and I guess we have to hope for similar excitement in Shanghai this weekend. So for the Chinese Grand Prix, Pirelli are bringing the medium tyre, the soft tyre, both used in Bahrain, and the ultrasoft tyre. Interestingly, they're skipping out the supersoft tyre, which is the compound between the soft and the ultrasoft. Interesting there, but it should result in some varied strategies, which normally creates an exciting Grand Prix. So let's talk about the questions that we have to consider going into this weekend. So, are Ferrari now the fastest F1 team? They won the first two races. Okay, Australia was a bit lucky, but I would say in Bahrain, Ferrari were the fastest team. I think that's a fair comment. So are they now ahead of Mercedes in the pecking order? Tell me. Secondly, was Gasly's pace in Bahrain some strange fluke? And will the Honda car be, the Toro Rosso Honda car be at the back of the grid again for this Grand Prix? Or will they actually be fighting in the top 10? What about Williams? Can they rescue their season? They're doing so badly. Sirotkin and Stroll have been hitting out at the team. Can they save themselves? And finally, pit stops. Do they need to be made safer? After the incident with the Ferrari mechanic at Raikkonen's pit stop in Bahrain. Maybe there should be a minimum time limit of something of 5 seconds. That's an idea that's floating around. What do you guys think about that? Tell me in the comments. So now it's time to talk about all the teams and drivers that will be taking part in the Chinese Grand Prix. So, Mercedes. By their high standards, they had a disappointing race in Bahrain, particularly in qualifying, where they only qualified on the second row, and they'll be hoping to bounce back at the Chinese Grand Prix. That's the question. Will they fight back, or will Ferrari be dominant again? Historically, Mercedes have done very well at the Chinese Grand Prix. So in 2012, Nico Rosberg took a shock victory. 2013, Hamilton took pole. He didn't convert it into victory, but he still had pole position. And then they've won every race there since 2014. Hamilton getting 3 wins and Rosberg getting 1. So, the statistics would suggest that they're going to do well here. Hamilton always does well at the Chinese Grand Prix. So, we should expect them to do well. And I reckon they will fight back. And I don't think Ferrari are the fastest team currently in F1. But this has to lead us to the question: is this race a must-win one for Lewis Hamilton? It might sound silly, but he has admitted to the press that he's already thinking about the championship fight after only 2 Grand Prix. Normally he only thinks about it at the end of the season, or at least he only admits to thinking about it at the end of the season. But, if Vettel wins this race with Hamilton in second, the gap will be 25 points between the two drivers. That's quite a big lead. That's a whole race win lead. So I think Hamilton has to win this race, otherwise Vettel's going to run away with the championship. Or maybe it's too early to say that, I don't know. And as for Valtteri Bottas, I reckon he has certainly got to be a driver we're going to have to watch this weekend. He did have a good performance in Bahrain, pushing Vettel to the limit. But ultimately, the disappointment of not winning despite his last gasp attempt may cause him to lose some confidence. And, he needs to perform this season, as he only has a 1-year contract. And what if he has another poor race after losing confidence after what happened to him in Bahrain? And, Mercedes, I'm sure, are looking at drivers like Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon, who are having their own struggles in their own teams. So Bottas has to start performing and certainly not let the disappointment of the end of the Bahrain Grand Prix affect him. Now, Ferrari. Of course, they're going to be coming in very happy with their performance in Bahrain. Of course, they had a 1-2 in qualifying, locking the front row of the grid. But of course, one of the things we have to talk about with Ferrari is our thoughts had to be with the family of the mechanic who was injured in the pit stop. He has had a successful operation, so we hope to see him back in the pit lane very, very soon. So obviously, thoughts of him. And Vettel will be aiming this weekend for his 3rd win on the bounce. I guess he won in Australia, he won in Bahrain. Let's see what he can do in China. Although if he does win in China, it'll be his first win in China since the Chinese Grand Prix of 2009. Yeah, that's a long time ago. Yeah, he doesn't do so well on the circuit, but you know he has got a very good car this year, so let's see what he can do. While Kimi Raikkonen, I would say, has roughly matched Vettel for pace in the first two races of 2018. You know he was beating him in Australia, and was in the fight for the victory in Bahrain. So he has been unlucky, and I would say he does have an outside chance this weekend. There was also criticism of him after the Bahrain Grand Prix and that dangerous pit stop, as he went straight into the garage once he got out the car, rather than going to help the mechanic. But I think this criticism is just stupid. Come on, he would have got in the way of the medics who could have helped the mechanic more. So I think that's a silly criticism. But what do you think? But while we're on the subject of pit stops, what do you guys think? Should they do stuff to make it more safe, to slow down the pit stop arms race? You know, what can they do? Because we had the issue of Haas in Australia, and then the Ferrari issue in Bahrain. What's next? It could get a lot worse, potentially. So, do the FIA or Liberty or whoever has the power to do something here, I have no idea, have to step in to make pit stops a little bit safer? Tell me, guys, in the comments what you think about that. But yeah, it'll certainly be interesting to see how Ferrari do, and are they going to run away with this championship? Or is it just that they've been a bit lucky so far this season? Now, as we know, Red Bull Racing had a particularly disappointing weekend in Bahrain, with neither car making it to lap 3. I think Daniel Ricciardo sort of said to the press that his retirement was brutal, but he's already kind of learned that this is the way F1 is. You have good weekends, you have bad weekends, it's the way it is. But you know, with the potential of a move to Ferrari on the cards, and it's certainly being discussed in the media, he will want to get a good result this weekend to build some more momentum for the rest of the season. Well, youngster Max Verstappen has been under a lot of criticism this week after his aggressive move on Lewis Hamilton in Bahrain, and ironically, of course, or maybe as you'd expect, this criticism has mainly come from Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton has been saying to the press that he thinks Verstappen should calm down a bit if he wants better results. You know, Verstappen has had a very poor start to the season. Of course, he had the spin in the race in Australia. He had a crash in qualifying in Bahrain, and then the incident with Hamilton in the race in Bahrain. So maybe Hamilton has a point, but of course then the question is, will Verstappen listen? And to be honest, as a fan, I kind of hope Verstappen doesn't listen, and I want to see a good rivalry between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And I think we all like Max Verstappen's aggressive driving style. We don't want to see him calm down. Well, I don't personally. Tell me what you think in the comments, of course. But I reckon Verstappen has the potential to come good as an aggressive driver. And I like the fact that he will always never give up. That's what we like about his driving style. And I don't particularly want him to calm down. Tell me what you think in the comments. Does he need to calm down if he wants to become a world champion? I don't think so, personally. No one was saying this last season, particularly. And I don't think this really is an issue this season. Not yet, anyway. Force India have had a fairly disappointing start to the season overall, I would say. You know, it's been a fairly quiet start to the season. We haven't heard much from them. But they did get their first point of the season in Bahrain, and they'll be hoping to build on that in China. Developments are coming, and they need a strong result here in China to properly start their campaign to maintain P4 in the driver standings. Of course, Ocon was the scorer at that point in Bahrain, while Perez had contact on lap 1, which meant he had to fight back and he didn't get back into the points. But they'll need to rely on both their drivers to have a strong weekend in such a competitive midfield at the Chinese Grand Prix. British team Williams have had an exceptionally disappointing start to the 2018 season. I would say they are the biggest disappointment of the season so far, and they need to improve fast. You know, Sergio Sirotkin, the rookie driver, has said that they look like idiots in Bahrain, and I guess there's a risk that they will look like idiots again in China. Well, Lance Stroll has also admitted there are a lot of things wrong with the team at present. And now the one thing I know about sport and F1 is that when the drivers or teammates start criticising the team as a body, that's when things are really going wrong. And something is broken at Williams. Nobody seems to know what. They have so much funding thanks to the fact that they're a heritage team, which means they get extra funding from the FIA, an extra 10 million, I believe. But for some reason, they're at the back of the grid, even behind Sauber at the moment, and they're the only team not to have scored a point. So China needs to be the start of a big change. Although considering there won't be many upgrades this weekend, as it's a back-to-back race and it's not in Europe, I don't think much is going to happen for Williams this weekend, and I reckon they're going to be in back-to-back markers again, sadly. Renault have had a disappointing start to the season, mediocre at best, but in my opinion, especially in comparison to what we would be expecting from them. And I'd say particularly for Sainz, he hasn't had the best start to the season. As a neutral, we want to see Sainz and Hülkenberg racing closer together, and this weekend could be an opportunity for that to happen. I'm really hopeful about this, and we want to see the team progress towards the podium. I don't think a podium is going to happen, at least not in the first half of the season, and certainly not in China, where I think the big teams are going to have a good advantage over the midfield. But I'm really be interested to see if Sainz can improve this weekend and match Hülkenberg, and whether they can both score a decent number of points for the team at a Chinese Grand Prix. In my opinion, the Haas F1 team certainly had mixed fortunes at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Magnussen did brilliantly to be well up in the points throughout the race, and it'd be interesting to see if he can maintain his pace, and in general the pace that the team has had so far this season. However, Roman Grosjean has struggled quite a bit in Bahrain, and he will be hoping to improve to match his pace from Australia this weekend. He has scored points at the Chinese Grand Prix before, when he's had a good car, so he'll be hopeful when now that he has a good car this season, that he'll be able to fight somewhere in the points, certainly to be in Q3 and the top 10. Toro Rosso Honda were the stars of the show at the Bahrain Grand Prix, and they'll be hoping to maintain their pace this weekend. Of course, Gasly qualified in 6th, started 5th, and finished the race in a stunning P4. And can he do it the same this weekend? It looks like the Honda engine has improved. It's their best result in F1 since they returned as an engine supplier in 2015. Then from McLaren, now they've moved to Toro Rosso, and they'll be hoping to maintain their pace this weekend. Or maybe was it just a fluke? In Australia they were at the back of the grid with Williams and Sauber, but suddenly they were fighting with Hamilton and Verstappen and Ricciardo. It was crazy. So it'll be interesting to see if they can do it again. It's a tough ask, but it'll be interesting to see if Gasly can be in the points again. Okay, I guess the P4 is a bit higher than he would have been had people like Ricciardo, Verstappen and Raikkonen all finished the race. But even had it, let's say, been P7, that would have been super impressive. I'd be saying the same type of thing now. So it'd be interesting to see if they can maintain their pace from Bahrain at the Chinese Grand Prix. Brendan Hartley had a tough weekend in Bahrain. Of course, he had contact with Perez on the first lap, which left him with damage and a 10-second penalty. But you know what? If Gasly can be in the points, Hartley will expect to be too. McLaren Renault have admitted to the media that they've not been good enough this season, quite simply, and that they're going to need some luck or a lot of development to get onto the podium this season. Ultimately, then their race pace has been pretty good. I think Alonso has been in the points both races. Van Dorn had a great race in Bahrain, which I'm about to talk about. So they do need to qualify better, and that's something they're going to be working on. And it'll be interesting to see how they qualify at the Chinese Grand Prix. Stoffel Van Dorn made 11 overtakes to get to P8 on Sunday at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Not many people have been talking about it, but it happened. He had a bad first lap, but then he managed to make a lot of progress to get to P8 at the Grand Prix. And I'm hoping to see a bit more of him this weekend. Hopefully he'll be closer to the front, racing his teammate Fernando Alonso. And the other guys in the midfield. Could be exciting to see what Van Dorn is really made of. Well, I guess Alonso will have to make sure he doesn't let his frustration with the lack of qualifying pace boil over and he can focus on scoring regular points for the race. We know the race is always where Alonso comes good. He's been doing it for years, especially at the start of the race. And he has already nearly scored as many points this season as he did for the whole of the last season. So he is doing well in the race. They haven't been terrible. And he'll be hoping for a good weekend. And hopefully he'll be somewhere near the top 5. Finally, Sauber Alfa Romeo were probably one of the stars of the show at the Bahrain Grand Prix, and had Gasly not scored his points for Toro Rosso, everybody would be talking about Marcus Ericsson getting 2 points for Sauber Alfa Romeo, and that leaves us with the question, obviously, can they do it again? You know, I've never really thought much of Ericsson, but maybe he had a great race in Bahrain. Can they repeat this feat in China, or are they going to be back at the back of the grid like they were in qualifying? It was strategy that got them to where they finished, so it'll be interesting to see if they can do it again, although they may need some luck and a high attrition rate from other teams if they're going to be able to do it. That's my opinion. While Charles Leclerc, the rookie driver, of course, has admitted he's struggling to adapt to F1, mainly because he likes oversteer in this car, and you don't really get that in Formula 1. So let's hope he improves and adapts quickly, as we do know he is a great driver from his time in Formula 2 and the lower categories. So let's see. What I'm hoping for good things for Sauber Alfa Romeo this weekend, but I expect them to be still towards the back of the grid. So we've talked about all the teams and drivers, and now I'm going to make my predictions for the 2018 Chinese Grand Prix. So I'm going to put my neck on the line and say pole position, Valtteri Bottas. I reckon he is going to come back even stronger this weekend, at least in qualifying, and put out a great lap and get pole position to beat Hamilton and Vettel. However, for the race, I'm going to go for a Lewis Hamilton victory. He has to fight back after what's happened to him in the last couple of races, and I reckon he has a good record in China, particularly on race day, and I reckon he's going to do something special in the race this weekend. Second place, I'm going to go Vettel. Third place, Raikkonen. I think he will be close to Vettel, but Vettel will beat him. Fourth place, Bottas. So I reckon he's going to bottle it a bit in the race. Fifth place, Verstappen. I hope he keeps his aggressive driving style. P6, Alonso. He will probably have to fight his car a bit. I don't think McLaren will be in Q3, but he'll have to fight up the grid, as he's very good. P7, Ricciardo. I reckon he's a little bit disillusioned with the car. I reckon his heart is really elsewhere, and I reckon he's going to have a poor race this weekend. P8, Kevin Magnussen. P9, Nico Hulkenberg. And P10 for the McLaren, Stoffel van Dorn. So yeah, tell me your predictions in the comments down below, or on Twitter at BGaming342. And I'll see you guys next week for my review of what will hopefully be a really exciting 2018 Chinese Grand Prix.